Hello everybody, can you please indicate in the chat if you are there so that we can start? Welcome to my channel, welcome to Yes She Could. Okay, it is 1 minute past 5 and we are going to start immediately without wasting so much time. So today we are having the Sit Live session, Go AWS with Mel. And I hope that so far you have learned something because I'm learning quite a lot and I'm equally having a lot of hands-on, getting mistakes and errors here and there, which is making me to consolidate the concepts more. And I hope you too. So last time, the video aimed at creating a custom domain using Route 53 and using that domain to route traffic to our static website, which is hosted in an S3 bucket. But it's rather unfortunate that we were not able to achieve that because we got an error when we tried to create our record. And it was telling us that the record A was already in use. It was already created. So we were not able to achieve the objective. And I was able to watch the live again and I actually discovered what the error was. It was actually just negligence on my part. And in this video, I'm going to show you what I forgot which caused that error. So in this live, we are going to correct that error and then we are going to try to achieve that objective, which is creating a custom domain using Route 53 and routing the traffic to our static website. Before we start, before I share my screen so that we have our hands on, I'm just going to have a quick recap of what we said. So the first thing was we looked at IP addresses because if we want to understand Route 53, which is a domain name service offered by AWS, we have to understand IP addresses. And we said an IP address is a string of characters which identifies a computer, a phone, or any other device on the internet. And usually these characters, it's difficult for us to remember them and we need a name to be able to remember them. And that is where domains come in. So domain is just a name which is used to associate or get to a device or get to the IP address. So that is what we said. And we said that Route 53 is a domain name service which is in the networking category of AWS, and this Route 53 helps to associate our domain name to the IP address, without which we will have to remember the IP address all the time. And we took the example of Google, for example. You don't need to know the IP address behind Google, but if you know the domain name, you can reach the information which is in the IP address. So that is what we did last time. And the objective was to create our own custom domain, and we achieved that objective because at the end of the day, I showed you how to create your custom domain, and it was _yesshecould.com, and we had to route traffic to our static website using this custom domain. So this is more or less what we saw last time, and we want to correct that mistake today by doing what is right. As I told you, I discovered where the problem was, and without wasting so much time, I'm going to share my screen in some few minutes and we are going to look into that. But before I move on, I'm just going to ask if you have any questions concerning what we did before. If you tried your own, if you tried to do something and you got an error or anything, any doubts concerning what we have been saying concerning hosting static pages with S3 buckets or Route 53, you can just indicate in the chat so that I can answer that before we continue. Okay, nobody has a question, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so that we can complete what we started last time. Okay. So I guess you can see my screen. If you can see my screen, please indicate in the chat. Okay, my screen is visible. And to go to Route 53, we have our search bar here. And it's easier for us to write Route 53 right here. So I'm going to click on Route 53. Okay, and this is our Route 53 dashboard. We have one hosted zone. And if you remember, we didn't create this hosted zone. When you create your custom domain in AWS, it automatically creates a hosted zone for you. And a hosted zone, like this is it right here. A hosted zone is simply a container for your records. And the hosted zone, which is created by default, has the same name as your domain name. Remember, our domain name was 𝐿𝐷𝐄𝐒𝐳𝑐𝐄𝐑𝐄𝐒. So this is exactly what we have here. This is our hosted zone, and this is where we go ahead and create our records. But before we go there, I just want us to go back here, and if you click here, you're going to see the registered domain, which is different from the hosted zone. The hosted zone is created as a result of the creation of our custom domain. So this is our custom domain, and if you click here, you're going to see other information related to this custom domain. Because there are a lot of personal information related to this, I'm not going to click this. And you're equally going to see the IP addresses which are associated with this, the servers which are associated with this domain right here. So what I wanted to show you is going back to the hosted zones, because that is where we are supposed to create our records. And yeah, this is the hosted zone here. And when I mean record, if you don't understand, a record is simply something which defines how you want to route traffic to a particular resource or an endpoint. And our objective is to route traffic to the S3 bucket, which is hosting our static website. So I'm going to click here and I will scroll down. Okay, now you have to be very keen, because as you can see here, we already have a record. This is the mistake I made last time. As I told you, I recorded a video before and I practiced before to make sure everything was fine before I could do the live session. And I went ahead and deleted everything. I thought I deleted everything, but I didn't actually delete everything. So when we were recording the video last time, this record, it was already existing. That is why when I tried creating it the second time, it was telling me the record is already existed. But I didn't really come to this page to check because I was so certain that I had deleted everything. And that is where I was a little bit confused. And yeah, we were not able to achieve our objective. So that is where the problem is. The problem is the record is already created. And we cannot create a second record which is pointing to this same domain. That's basically what the problem was. If we want to track this, I'm going to show you another AWS service which I went ahead and looked at and controlled in order to see what had happened. So the service is called CloudTrail. And this service, let me just duplicate this so that you have an idea. Yeah, the service is called CloudTrail. And CloudTrail is used to track all the events which are happening on your AWS account and your AWS resources. So if you log into your AWS resource, you can check CloudTrail to see when you logged into the resource, what you actually did. So if I come here and I check CloudTrail, this is the CloudTrail service here, and you see it tracks user activity and API usage. Just to tell you what happened last time that we were not able to create the record. Now you come to CloudTrail. This is the page, the landing page. You come here and you come to event history. This is kind of a logging system, a logging service. And you go to event history. We are going to look at our events of last week. So this is the 23rd, and it tells me I have logged into the console. I logged into the console equally yesterday. I logged in on the 20th, but that is not what I'm interested in. I'm interested in the activities of the 12th because that is when we had our live session concerning Route 53. So that is what I'm concerned about. So now it tells me what I did on the 12th, on the 16th, sorry. 11:37:34 console login. Email is reachable. That is when I was checking the email to see if checking the email in the creation of my custom domain. Then we have send verification message. Okay. Then at 12:04, I save contact templates. Then at this time, I registered my domain and I showed you the video on how to register domain. Then here, hosted zone was created as a result of the creation of this domain. As I told you, hosted zones are created by default, so we didn't create that. Now, when you go to 13 at 1 p.m., I changed a resource. And what is this change resource all about? I want to know. I click on it. If I scroll down, okay, this is where everything happens. This is what happens here. It tells me I created a resource with the name 𝐿_𝐿_𝐶𝐂𝐬.com of type A. This is just to tell you that this record was already in existence when I was doing the live session because I did it at 1 p.m. I did not delete it because if I go back to my event history after that time, I don't see any delete. So the record has been there. That is why we were not able to continue with the live session because after the change I did at 13 at 1 p.m. Sorry, you see I equally changed the resources here, but you don't see any delete which I carried out. But I actually thought I deleted everything. So that was just to show you can equally check your activities using CloudTrail. Now let's come back to our Route 53. So given that this record already exists, I'm not able to create one with the same name. So if I want to create one with the same name, I'll have to delete it. But before I delete it, just to show you that the record exists, this is the endpoint. The endpoint is 𝐿_𝐿_𝐶𝐂𝐬.com, and that is it. So you see it actually works because the record A routes traffic to my survey form. The survey form does no longer have that long name we used to see. Let me just go and check. I think I have it somewhere here. No, I don't have it. But if I go back here and I go to my S3 bucket, you're going to understand the difference more. Here I have to look for S3. Okay, this is S3. This is my bucket right here. 𝐿_𝐿𝐶𝐂𝐬. If I go to properties, I'm supposed to have the link to my website. Remember, you scroll down and here you have the link. So if I copy this link, I go to a new tab. This is the link I'm supposed to have. Okay, so when you create your custom domain, look at this long link. 𝐿_𝐿𝐶𝐂𝐬.com, S3 website, EU, Amazon. It's really long. But if you just give somebody 𝐿_𝐿𝐶𝐂𝐬.com survey form, the person is friendly, right? Because the person knows that this is a survey form which is for 𝐿_𝐿𝐶𝐂𝐬. So that is the difference. Here we are using Route 53 for our custom domain. It's routing traffic to this website which is hosted on S3 bucket. And yeah, that is it. It actually works already. But to complete the process, to complete everything, I'm going to go ahead and delete this record so that we can complete the process because that is what I missed last time. I'll click on this. I'm going to delete it. We are going to create it from scratch. Okay? So delete the record permanently. This action cannot be undone. Your domain might become unavailable on the internet. Okay, that's fine for me. So I'm going to delete this one. Yes, delete. Okay, was successfully deleted. Now we can go ahead and create a record of type A. But before we do that, you might ask me, Melen, who created the name server domain, the name server record? So this one and this one are created by default when you create your domain, when you create your custom domain. So I do not create this. And for now, don't ask me what these two things are because I'm still trying to read and understand. I'm a newbie in networking and I'm still trying to understand all this stuff. So for now, I don't really know much about this. I'm going to research more on that so that I can answer your questions. But for now, I'm still researching. So we are going to go and create our record. Okay, so now the record we are trying to create is supposed to route traffic to an AWS resource. And the records are of different types. We have type A records, which routes traffic to internet protocol of type 4. Because you know, internet protocols are of different types. You have IPv4, you have IPv6, and there is a very, very nice tutorial on these internet protocols on YouTube. There is a guy I'm following, IT Funde. I'm going to put a link in the description box. You can follow the guy because I think he really explains networking concepts in a way that even if you don't have the background, you can understand. So that is where I usually go and watch videos in order to understand all this networking stuff. So this IPv4, this record type routes traffic from a custom domain to IPv4 or an AWS resource, as we can see here. I'm going to click on that. And here, as we said, you have to enable the alias. Once you enable the alias, you have to choose what you want to do. What we want to do is we want to route traffic to our S3 website. Click on this one. When I click on that, I have to choose the region where I created a bucket. I created a bucket in the Central European region, which is Frankfurt. Okay, then now I can choose my bucket. It's going to show me the static website which is hosted at my bucket by default because the names are equal. Remember what I told you in the last video. If you want to create a custom domain which routes traffic to this, the names are supposed to be equal. The bucket name is supposed to be exactly 𝐿-𝐿-𝐾𝐄.com. If the name is not equal, I'm sorry, you're not going to see it here. You can try that because I've tried it already and it didn't work, so you can try that too. Okay, that is all we need to do. After we have done this, all we need to do is create records. And I hope there will be no mistake this time around. Okay, so it's as simple as that. Last time we had an error because it was already created. Very silly error on my part because I didn't delete everything and I actually thought I deleted everything and I was going crazy during the live session. I would have checked that. It's always good to check. And yeah, that is it. That is it. So the objective has been achieved. I hope you learned something out of all this mess and all this logging in and logging out. But the good thing is that now you know how to use CloudTrail. So you can always go back to CloudTrail and see what you have been doing. Or if somebody has logged into your account, yeah, you can just check things on CloudTrail. Okay. So that was it for today. Just wanted to round up with this session because there are many other things we need to do. If you have questions regarding this section, please can you indicate so that I can answer them. So guys, that is it. Finally, the objective of this video was met. We were able to finally route traffic to our static website. Just a quick recap of all what we have been doing so far. So far, we have been working mostly with S3 buckets. S3 buckets hosting our static website. Now we have added another service which is Route53 with the objective of creating a custom domain which routes traffic to our static website because the URL which is provided by AWS when you host your bucket when you host your website in a bucket, is not friendly at all. So we have used a second service, which is the networking service. And as time goes on, we are going to add more services. So the objective is really to have more hands-on, because it's only by having hands-on that we are able to learn more. These things, yeah, I've never really had hands-on as I'm doing now. And this is an opportunity for me to learn and have more hands-on. I read a lot of them to prepare for the certification. I did hands-on, but not as, how do they say? Not as detailed, not as in-depth as I'm doing now. So I'm happy to share it with you. I'm happy I'm learning something, and I hope you are equally learning something. Okay, so Ornella has a question, and I'm just going to quickly read her question. If I have a static website on Oracle Cloud and I want to migrate to AWS, do I have to follow the same procedure that you have indicated, or there is a different procedure? Okay, thanks Ornella for the question. I would just like to say that Oracle Cloud is a different provider and AWS is a different provider. It's true that you can make these two services to talk to each other by passing through the internet, or you can actually define how you want them to talk to each other. But if you want to know how to host your static website in Oracle, you have to read the requirements of how Oracle does it. I'm not quite sure it is the same procedure, but the concepts, I think they are going to be more or less the similar, having a custom domain which routes traffic. But we have to look into how Oracle does it. I'm not very sure of how it does it. And yeah, we can just look into that after and see how they do it for curiosity purposes. But if you want services which are hosted in Oracle Cloud to talk to AWS, that is very, very possible, because even applications which are hosted at the level of the companies and enterprises, they talk to AWS, and you are the one as a cloud architect to define that architecture of how you want the services hosted in your enterprise applications to talk to the cloud. So even if an application is hosted in another cloud, you can define how they talk to each other. But specifically for your question, which is hosting a static website on Oracle, I'm sorry, I don't know how to do that with Oracle. And yeah, I'll just have to find out how that is being done. And I'm going to get back to you just for curiosity purposes. Thank you for the question. Ornell says she doesn't know if her question makes sense because she's new to cloud. Yeah, Ornell, it's okay. It actually makes sense because maybe you're a little bit confused about the cloud and the providers. As I said in the first live session, there are many cloud vendors out there. So we don't have just AWS. As you rightly said, Ornell, we equally have Oracle. And there are others like Alibaba and Google Cloud. There are many. So what you need to do is, I think the concepts are the same because I've had the opportunity to look at Oracle Cloud a bit. I think they have some similarities in the services they offer. But if you want to know how to work with a particular service, you need to go to the documentation of that public cloud provider to see how that is done. Yeah, but the concepts will be more or less the same. Everybody knows what an IP address is. So if you see IP address when you're looking at Oracle Cloud, it doesn't change. We all know what a DNS is. They might have a domain name service, but the name will not be Route53. It's going to be another name, but it doesn't change the fact that it's a domain name service and it is used to associate a name to an IP address. So what I will tell you is, if you understand the concepts, then you can apply it anywhere. The name might change, the way in which you do it might change, but the key things remain. Yeah, that is what I'm going to tell you, Ornella. Okay, if you have a question, please just indicate so that we can round off this session and call it a day while waiting for next weekend to have something new. Yeah. Please, you should try it. You should try it. It's true that if you want to try this one, you're supposed to buy a custom domain which costs $12. Yeah, I made that sacrifice. So if you have $12 to spare just to have hands on, you can try that. You can have just a simple HTML page, not a complicated one, just to understand all the concepts behind. And if you have any question, please always come back to the comment section or leave a message on my social platforms and I'm going to get back to you. If I can help you, I will do it with pleasure. Yeah. Nobody has a question again. So can we call it a day? I feel like dancing though. Okay, guys, thank you so much for being here with me. Thank you for your questions. We're going to call it a day and see you next weekend for another live session. If you have not subscribed, please remember to subscribe. Remember to invite your friends, those who are techies and those who want to join this journey, to come and subscribe so that we make this journey more interesting. Bye.